Dennis, if he's still eating a little bit, if he would talk a little bit about making splits and maybe what we went and done the other day down at the Kemper Park. As soon as we get over the hill. But we got Richard Woodham here, and he's got some updates. He's going to stand up and tell us about.
Is that my?
I sure you to go tell us the date.
Action.
Action.
Yeah,
Oh, you're live.
this is 5 minutes of fame.
That's right.
Finally got on TV. So a few updates. Today I was in Auburn. We're interviewing for an extension professor. We have 3 candidates coming in from around the United States. But the job will be filled by May the 1st. So we will see an immediate improvement on the extension side. The Alabama Cooperative Extension Office starting to push out honeybee stuff. This person will have 75% of their job to provide extension to Alabama population just on honeybees and 25% research. So a new days coming, and that doesn't mean that your Alabama Cooperative Extension Office will all of a sudden start doing stuff. It means that Auburn Bee Lab will now have a professor of extension for honeybees starting May 1st. So I have another interview I'll do Thursday, and then I'll go back Thursday of next week, and then we'll hire one of the 3, and they'll start. So the next thing is coming up, not this Saturday, but next Saturday, March the 23rd, is the Auburn Bee Lab Spring Workshop. Even though it's sold out, I encourage you, if you're interested, to go ahead and sign up. You won't have to pay yet, because there'll be a waiting list. And sometimes the Bee Lab says, well, there's only 10 or 12 extra people, and we'll notify them and let them pay in and come. So that's Saturday in Auburn. Then the very next thing is the Alabama Farmers Federation at the office in Montgomery of Alpha. I'm the chairman of the Bee and Honey Division. We will have some speakers that will come and talk about ELAP and MAP, which are whenever you have beehive losses or production losses, you can apply for money to recover. But you first have to sign up and register your leads and all of that. So check the Alabama Farmers Federation, Bee and Honey for that, and then I'll have my board meeting. We'll excuse the people after we have the presentations, and then we'll have our board meeting that afternoon. After that is the first weekend in August is the Master Beekeeping Program. If you're interested in starting in that, you should go to the Alabama Master Beekeeping Program website. You can sign up for beginner, apprentice, journeyman, or master based on where you're at in your beekeeping life. And then after that, in September, I think it's the 20th, 21st, whenever that weekend is the Alabama Beekeepers Association annual conference, and you have to go to that website to sign up for that. 2 other quick things. We do have legislation in the Senate that has been introduced by our Senator Josh Carney to exempt everything honeybee sales tax. We don't know if we'll get it in, but because they're fighting over gambling and they're fighting over the in vitro fertilization, which neither one of them was planned, and that's what's taking up the time. But there's also one of the farmers that are putting up fence to fence in their livestock, that the materials to fence in your livestock will also be sales tax exempt. So that's what's happening in Alabama legislation. In the U.S. House of Representatives in Washington, D.C., our Barry Moore, representative, is co-sponsored the Hive Act. You can Google the Hive Act for honeybees, and it'll tell you about it. But what it is an attempt by the government to put an end to adulterated honey. And also the FDA will be charged with, within 2 years, that if anybody has United States product on the label of their honey, it must be a bare minimum of 95%. So it can't have Chinese, Australian, monkey this and monkey that. It's got to be. Monkey foot is part of it. But anyway, that's going to be a biggie, and that will cut down the imported honey that is adulterated. And finally, if you're a beekeeper now, you know you don't have a lot of honey to sell. Land use has plenty of honey, so if you need honey, use Japan. And then we're going to have Dukes. The grand opening in
April the
so
20th.
you better get them ordered quick, because I mean they're going fast.
Got 19 left.
Yep. So, any questions about any of that I just mentioned? Thank you all very
You did a
much.
great job explaining.
Thank you.
All right, so we were talking about, I put on the website, or Brooke did for me.
Thank you.
We might talk about splits, right? Making splits this time of year. And before you get cooled off, Richard, when you make a split, what do you gotta have?
Well, and I try to give simple answers because I'm still teaching classes at Enterprise State Community College, and we'll start a split and queen rearing class the first weekend, first Monday night in May. You have to go to Enterprise State Community College website to community classes and sign up. But we're going to have that for 3 months. But to answer your question, to learn from it, whenever you're doing a split, what you're really doing is you're creating an artificial swarm. That's all you're doing. And so, if you know what's in a swarm, then you will know what you have to have. Whenever the bees leave with the queen to swarm, all of the worker bees have filled up on honey. Because when they get to where they're going, to their new home, they have to start making comb, they have to feed each other until they can get the queen somewhere away. So what you have to do is create another colony, and it's just like a nuke. You've got to have food, you've got to have bees, you've got to have comb, and food being nectar and pollen, and that's what a split is. The only thing you don't have is a queen, and you have to decide, are you going to do a walk-away split, meaning that you can do it 2 ways. You can put queen cells in there that are already being made before they emerge. You can put eggs and early larvae in there so they make their own queen. You can buy a virgin, or you can buy a mated queen. So whenever you do a split, you have to decide how much time you're willing to wait. Because the further back you go back in the reproduction cycle to an egg or a larvae, you're going to have to wait longer before you start producing anything from that split. But if you buy a mated queen, which we usually have those, then you will immediately start the production of that split. So you have to decide how much time you actually have. But you just making a nuke is what you're doing. That's what a split is.
So the answer to my question was, you need a queen.
Oh, you don't have to have a queen one way or the other, or the hive's going to die.
Oh, that's what I'm trying to get you to.
I'm new here, but can I ask a question?
You can ask any question you
What
want.
is the advantage of doing a split? Is your hive gotten too big and you don't want them to swarm out and you're trying to save them? Is that the
That's
reason for
it.
doing a split?
Yeah, but I do want y'all to understand that just because you do a split does not mean that you're going to prevent them from actually not swarming. What happens is whenever whenever the bees that are about to leave and take the queens with them to start doing their normal swarm split, is once that queen cell that they are leaving behind is capped, they're leaving the next day. So they're not going to stay. So what you do, you may or may not prevent a swarm by doing a split, but the reason you do a split is because you have too many bees and you need to make multiple colonies. But you may or may not stop them from swarming. No guarantee. Any other questions? Okay.
Yay.
Okay. So I guess the number one rule in beekeeping is there is no right way to keep bees.
Musical microphone.
And same probably the way making splits. And there's several fellas in here, we're gonna let talk now, to tell you how they keep their splits, how they make their splits. You need 5 frames, and you get by with 2 frames, or how do you do that? Who wants to go first?
Gentlemen.
You go ahead.
He has his special one.
Tag him.
You go ahead. Coach Giselle tell us all about this.
Coach.
Understand this. It's the way I do it. I'm coming up here.
I see you.
The way I do it is not
Thank you.
necessarily the way you'll do it. One thing,
No, absolutely.
another reason that you make splits, if you have a hive that has a great temperament, is the queen is very productive, and for some reason they don't come out flying backwards trying to sting you every time you open them up. That is one that I try to get some of that genetics in another colony. Now, I'm going to throw my style is I use 2 frames. If you watch Barnyard Bees, David at Barnyard Bees, that name echoes in my head because I've watched him so much. But he uses 2 frames. He calls them mini mating loops. But he uses 2 framers a lot because one, it doesn't complete your colony that you have already. If I make a 5 frame split, sometimes I deplete that colony pretty good. Now, it does help deter swarming, like Mr. Richard said. It doesn't stop it, but it does help deter it. But also, I found out last year through beekeeper error that you can oversplit and weaken your colonies to the point that they don't recover. Now, I'm going to go ahead and tell you, I'm not going to lie to you, I'm not here to sugarcoat anything. I lost 12 hives over the winter.
Ooh.
And as I went back and tried to decide what I did wrong, we split hard and they didn't recover from it. And then I thought through beekeeper error that 12 acres of sunflowers would just be one of the biggest honey producers there was, and I guess they made 0. Because I picked I took 11 hives back there, and with the exception of Zach keeping me home 4, I moved all of them myself. And did you help me?
Not on the way out.
On the way out, they was just as loud as I moved them in. That told me that we didn't make honey at all. But I'm holding this bottle because that is my feeder.
That's fancy equipment right there.
It is fancy equipment. I beekeep on the cheap. If you want.
That's
I
your
can
slogan.
I can take the smallest drill bit I have, and I can drill about 6 holes in that, and I can put sugar water in it, and stick that right up top. And usually I'll put a brick on either side just to make sure. But that's my loop feeder right there. When I make a split, I go in. This is my banner wide up here.
That's a funny looking banner.
I didn't say it was pretty banner. I just
She
said
didn't
it's my
age
banner.
very well.
When I make a split, I'm gonna go into my hive, my colony, that I've deemed one that I want to mimic, and I'm gonna find a frame with. I'm blind. I can't see eggs. I'm not gonna lie to you. Typically, if I see milk brood, I assume, and it may hurt me eventually, but I assume that if there's milk brood on it, that somewhere on the outer fringes could possibly be the larvae and the eggs that I'm looking for. And Lynn does lots of grafting. I leave it up to the bees because I can't see an egg to graft anyway. Zach grafted last year in my little shed. And we made some queens, but
That's fun.
if I'm the one having to graft, we're in trouble because I can't see. But I let the bees pick who they want. Typically, when you do a small tube framer like this, they're not going to overwhelm you with extra queen cells. They're going to make one. Sometimes they'll make an emergency, a second one. So you don't have 15 queen cells that you got to figure out what to do with. But last year, I made 10 tube framers, and we was 8 for 10 on getting the queen back and mated. And that's the biggest thing to me is getting the queen back. And I'm in the honey business. I make honey. Everybody can pollinate, they can go sell bees. I like people telling me, you have some good honey. And that's been since day one. So there's probably better ways to do this, but for me, in my system, I don't want to weaken my colonies up that I can't make honey. So, and Memorial Day weekend, I want to harvest 50 to 100 gallons of honey. It's plain and simple. So typically I put a frame, should have a band of honey up here if they're doing what they're supposed to do. And then you'll have eggs, larvae, open brood, cap brood in here. Back the same. I will put a pollen patty in here, if I don't have a frame that's got pollen on it. But that's all I do. I put one frame in there of bees, nurse bees, and then I'll take and shake nurse bees in there with them to up the population. And then I put a blank in there to give them something to do. And then we put the top on, feed them, and feed them. And feed them. When you think that, hey, I can't afford no more sugar water, then you better go get some more sugar water because they need it. I have done 5 framers. It's not my preferred style. Once I get the queen back in here mated and laying, she's going straight to a 5 framer anyway, and I'm putting this right back into action. If you ever watch Barnyard Bees, he gets the queen, gets her laying on both frames, takes the queen, he takes her eggs out, moves them up to another 2 framer, and just keeps that, because they sell, I don't know how many queens they sell a year, but they sell lots of queens. So that's my way. I've had good success with it. It may not be your way. That's like Lynn said. In beekeeping, you've got to develop what works for you. Because what works for me might not work for you, and what you do might not work for me. I learned I have to have my bees in my yard. I am not a good beekeeper that I go to an out yard and check them.
I'll forget.
So when I come home from teaching school every day and I need to blow off some steam, I roll straight into the house, change clothes, get my smoker lit, roll right out into the bee yard. But when I move those bees to the sunflowers,
Out of sight, out of mind.
So everybody will develop their own thing.
Object.
Another thing I was going to tell you, I am 3 weeks ahead of where I usually catch a swarm in Dale County.
Kidding.
Because Lynn was busy Saturday, he passed that one off to me down here at the co-op. And I'm glad he did, because now in the back corner, little Miss Audrey is a brand new beekeeper. She has her first hive.
Nice.
I'll put a queen influter on the bottom. And as of yesterday, they were hauling pollen in, and I think we've put 2 pipes of sugar water on them since Saturday. So they're probably drowning in there, but that's good. That's what we want. I say that to say this. If you want free bees, they're out there. But if you're not ready, they're not waiting for you. A swarm is not going to stay around till you get your stuff ready. A swarm, and Mr. Richard probably can have more information, but a swarm, that's a temporary, that queen, in what I understand, that queen has gotten tired. She lands, they wrap her up to protect her, keep her warm, keep her away from the elements until she is refreshed. And then she's going to bump again until she gets tired again, and then she's going to land. They're going to cover her up, and it's a process until they get to their home. Now, Mr. Richard, correct me if I'm wrong, but they've already, scout bees are already looking for the new house when the cluster is formed. Am I right?
Yeah, they take about 2 weeks to go find a new home, and when they leave, they know where they're going. But something everybody should know, the queen doesn't make any decisions whatsoever. They are, the workers make all the decisions, and they are making sure that she comes on with them. And like he's saying, the reason they have to stop is the queen only flies 3 different times in her life. Whenever she emerges, she goes out for an orientation flight, and then she goes on a mating flight, and then she goes on a swarm flight. And that's because she's coming to the end of her life. It got too crowded in there, and they're leaving queen cells to go start a new home to split their family.
All of that said to say this. The other day, I took 2 boxes with me. I took a deep, because sometimes you run across a swarm that will not fit in the 5-frame nuke. I caught one at the boys' home last year, and if I would have took a 5-frame nuke, I would have took about 2 boxes too small to catch that swarm, because it was probably 8 pounds of bees. So I always throw a 10-framer in the truck, and I always throw a 5-frame nuke. Now the other day, my man White up here, he wouldn't have wanted to held a 10-framer up there where we were, because we was about 10 foot up on a awning, and he was holding from underneath, so I could break bees in from the top. Because
Get stoned.
did I get stoned?
I said, and get
Oh
stoned.
yeah, I got it. But
I knew you were.
all of that to say this: have your equipment ready. Most of my stuff is homemade. Bees build in trees, they build in houses, they build in water meters on the ground. They don't, as long as they'll take to just about anything. So my boxes, I have some 6-frame nukes, I have some 5-frame nukes. I don't take this ever to go catch a swarm. This is strictly for split.
No.
But have your stuff ready, because if you don't have it ready, when that person calls, you have absolutely 0 chance of going to catch those free bees. Because Lynn was busy the other day, I ride around with nukes in the truck. For the next month and a half, I will have at least a nuke and a 10-frame riding around with me, because I never know when I leave work. Somebody calls. I was here last year whenever the boys home called, and we just tore out and went that way. So, free bees. This is the first year I've ever bought packages of bees. Lynn's put to, what you say, tonight?
20th.
Because I lost so many colonies and I have so many brains of drone combs that I can do this. But everything in my apiary has been swarm captures or cutouts. So free bees. That's what I profess. Free bees. One thing I like about free bees is it's not anything Dennis has done. Because Dennis is just a plain old guy. But last year when Mr. Carter came and tested mine for mites, he found 3 mites out of the whole 4 or 5 hives that he tested. So I do not treat. I've never put any kind of treatment on my bees. So that's nothing Dennis does. That's just, I don't know if I have a strand of bees that has developed some hygienic behaviors. I don't know what it is. I don't profess to know bees. I beekeep and I'm learning every day. But right now, none of the mite treatment there is I've never used. Now, that could have been why I lost 11. I don't know. I feel like I lost 11 because I thought they had plenty of honey and they didn't. I believe mine was beekeeper mismanagement. But know this, if you have bees, once you get them established, you can make your own in a matter of 21 days, 18 days. Typically last year, and I did a little bit of charting last year, but within 18 to 20 days, I had a virgin queen running around here in almost every hive that I split. And then it takes 4 to 7 days for her to go mate, because she's going to fly out of the hive and she's going to mate in the air. Mr. Richard can tell you way more about that than I can, but I know for me, this is the earliest I've seen drones in Dale County. I don't know why, other than the groundhog didn't see a shadow or whatever it is. It screamed early. I don't know. We'll blame it on the groundhog, but it's the earliest I've ever caught a swarm, and it's the earliest that I've ever seen drones in my hive. So I wouldn't have a problem Thursday with it 70, almost 80 degrees, getting my 5 2-frame mini nukes out and finding 5 hives that I want to split, because I know I have the drone population now to handle. Now, 3 weeks ago, they were just starting to lay up in the drone phone, but now Lynn said the other day he saw drones, so, and I've seen drones. Is that what you wanted?
Yeah, you did a great job.
You did so good.
I'm
Thanks,
on the same
Coach.
line with Dennis.
You're famous, Dennis.
I just
Yeah,
brought
you are.
something different.
Dirt Rooster's on.
Yeah, he's watching you.
All right, so everybody knows what this is, right? This is your regular old 5-frame nook. So basically, I've modernized my 5-frame nook a little bit. I changed it up. I put me a 3/4 piece of wood on the center. I would have brought it, except for I'm using it because I was just trying this out. So I put me a board in the middle, and I drilled me a hole on the front on one side, and then on the opposite side, I drilled another hole. So basically, I've got two 2-frame mating nooks in one box. Now the trick to that is I'm gonna get there and I'm gonna take the lid off. I'm gonna want to check my bees. And what's going to happen when I pull that first frame up and I got the top off? These are going to start falling into the other side, right? So I just took me a piece of blue plywood. I split it in half. So now I've got little brads in it where I just mash it down. So when I take the top off, I pop the second cover only on the side I want to work with. And therefore, the bees that I picked up on a frame aren't falling into the other side. I did the same thing Dennis did. I believe it takes, Zach, we use 1 1/8, wasn't it? It was 1 1/8 for the Coke bottle. So in the top of my little lid, I put a hole on one side and then a hole on the other. Made sure that I went through my luan in the same place, so that feeder's going straight through to the bees on both sides. And you can pop the top just like Dennis did a minute ago. Put your Coke bottle back on it and go from there. That's pretty much how I did it. I'd only used one side this time because Zach and I were looking through there and we really only found one that we thought we just really wanted to use. So I'm gonna give it a shot and see if it works. It's just a 2-frame nook and a 5-frame box. I have several nook boxes laying around, so once they graduate from there, I can pull it. Now the other thing I do, and I did not label these, most of my hives, well pretty much every hive I've got, has got my initials on it and usually has a number. And on my 2-frame box that I have, I've got a number 1 side and a number 2 side so I can keep up with the date on what I put in when. Because my mind is bad, and I'll never remember that I put it in number 1 and number 2 and when I did it. So I went ahead and labeled them one side and the other, and that way I've got that covered. Dennis did mention shaking nurse bees in. We had 4 eyes making sure we didn't shake the queen in the other day. Keep that in mind when you go shaking nurse bees, because you don't really want to shake your queen down in there. But you just messed up another colony. Zach was with me, and he said, "Hey man, I got your queen here." We picked up a couple frames with some nurse bees, shook them in, and give me a couple weeks and we'll see how it goes. But that was just my take on what Dennis had went over using a 2-framer. And instead of building a 2-framer, I just took one of my nooks, because I've got, I don't know, probably 10 or 11 nook boxes. So I just decided I'd make a 2-framer out of one of those. And we'll see from there. So that was just my explanation on how I was doing it.
Woohoo! Thank you. Thank you, love.
Richard.
Since Philip Carter's name was mentioned in my class that I teach at the community college, y'all are welcome to come to a free class for Philip to present an update on all the different pests, diseases, treatments for honeybees. It's a 3-hour presentation. It's free. It's at Enterprise State Community College. It's in room 109 in the Sessions Building. And if y'all can't find it, get my cell phone from Lynn, and I'm happy to guide you in how to be there. But if you're in the front of the college, it's the front left building. That's the Sessions Building, and room 109 is down at the other end. And we'll be there from 6 o'clock till 9 o'clock if you'd like to come see a presentation by Philip. And it's an excellent presentation, so can't beat the price.
What day is that, Richard?
Monday night. Now that's not this coming Monday, it's the following Monday. 2 Mondays, yes, from 6 p.m. To 9 p.m. Room 109 in the Sessions Building.
All right. Sounds good. So you can see there's several different ways that you can make splits. There's no set rules, right? I was curious to know who doesn't have bees yet. Who's here that doesn't have bees? And you must have a lot of questions when this terminology we're using here a little bit.
Well, when you go out and get a swarm, if you don't get the queen,
I got it.
have you wasted your time? I mean, or if you maybe get some egg, I guess is what we're saying, in a comb and put it in the box with them, will they make a queen out of that? Or have you just wasted all your time if you didn't get the queen to start with?
So you want let Richard explain the egg, what is the day length?
So catching a swarm, whenever you go out, unless they're way up in the tree, you want to try to search for the queen and see if you can find her. You want to take a queen cage with you or a queen clip or something like that, because if you can find her and put her inside the box, you'll be amazed to watch them just march in like they're going to get free food or something like that. But it may work or it may not, because the longer the bees go without a queen, then they'll just start going somewhere else. But if you have food in there for them, they're not going to leave food, and they're not going to leave young brood. They'll always stay and look after that. So you could put a frame of eggs and young larvae in from another colony, and they could make a queen. They could. But you can go buy a mated queen or something like that. Or you can combine them with the current colony, a weak colony that you have. You can put, some people put newspaper on top of the bottom group, and they put the bees on the top, and they let them chew to each other so they can have a time of acclimation. The best thing to do is make sure you have a queen. That's the best thing. Always.
Yeah, pretty much.
You go catch one, it's amazing. Like Saturdays, as soon as I was doing this, I had gloves on actually, but I was using my hand here and raking them in. And just as soon as that queen, whichever handful I got, and she went in, instantly they come to the top, and they stuck their tails up in the air and went to doing what they do. And why they do it, I don't know.
Well, their fanning is what they're doing, and they're fanning across their Nasonoff gland. It's in their abdomen, and that's they call it "come hither." Like it's telling everybody, "This is home. Come here."
What I found out the other day was I put the top on them, and I still had a good cluster, 1,000, 2,000 bees up. But just as soon as they started coming out, I did the same thing. Let's look at it. It wasn't 15 minutes. That cluster that was 7 foot up started easing down, and in 20 minutes I had pretty much all the bees caught and only 50 flying. You know when you catch the queen.
Yeah.
One thing you can do is if you have a question as to where the queen is, if you started moving, like we were moving some bees in the other day and couldn't find the queen. And it's like just step back for a few minutes and with some frames out of your box, you can kind of watch what the bees are doing. And wherever that queen is, those workers can start going right towards you. So you just give them a few minutes, let them kind of calm down and just watch the box.
This is
Be
also,
careful where you step, because if she gets on the ground, which she can, you may step on her, but if you'll watch, as they're saying, the bees will start going around her and they will try to help her get back home.
this is also the example of when you ask one question to 10 beekeepers, you get 20 to 30 answers.
Yep.
You have to find what works for you because you never know.
So if I put a swarm trap up and I'm lucky enough to catch a swarm, is there automatically going to be a queen in there if they come into that swarm box?
Generally, because the swarm is not going to continue without the queen. They'll go back. So they talk about queen includers, which is an excellent idea, and the swarm may start leaving, but when they figure out she's not with them, they'll go back. And then they can't get her out, but as soon as they can get her out, they will if you don't make some adjustments. But you can't just go put a box out in the woods. You have to put some kind of attractant. Some people use lemongrass oil and things like that. And if you have some drone comb, that's even better, because now they'll smell that. The queen's got somewhere to lay. If you have a frame of honey or whatever, but I do want y'all to know that in most swarms there's going to be hive beetles, so they will fly with them, and they're going to bring varroa mites with them too. So you don't need to wait 6 months to check them or start making sure to put beetle traps in or put the Swiffer dry sheets in there, whatever you need to. Within the next week or so, you need to check and see what you got and start treating for it again.
And how important is the size of the hole on a swarm trap?
Well, bee space is 3/8 of an inch. Anything smaller than that, they generally will propolize. Anything bigger than that, they will fill with wax. But like I think Sneezel said, bees live out in nature, and that's what we should be looking at to represent. Generally, they go in a knot hole, but it's not usually that big. Sometimes a crack is, but all we need to do is try to replicate nature. But you don't need gigantic entrances, because they have to guard it, and the bigger it is, the less they can guard it.
Remember, the bees didn't write the books. Sometimes they just have to tell you themselves.
Yeah. And sometimes they just leave to tell you you're a terrible beekeeper.
Is that what happened? That's what happened. I understand.
They speak a different language. That's what we understand. They left.
So what I'm seeing right
can say.
now is take the top off of me, this down the floor the other day, crack the lid, and you got the bees just cover everything you got. Time to add a box, and that'll help prevent the bees from swarming. But chances are by then they've already made them some queens, some new queens to swarm with. But how many bees do they take? A typical swarm when they leave the box.
Well, generally 50 to 60% of the bees are going to leave. And what the swarm has figured out, it is all ages of bees. It is not just the old bees. It's the old queen usually, but it's not the old bees, because they have to have the range of ages to do exactly the same thing. So they are swarming to survive and reproduce. And this is getting no deeper because I don't want Brooke to throw us out. But the nurse bees, when we talk about that, nurse bees cannot produce royal jelly until they're 6 days old. And they strongly produce royal jelly till they're 12 days old. And then when they become 12 days old, they start producing wax through their wax glands on the bottom of their abdomen until they're about 18 days old. And then when they get 21 days old, they leave and They become foragers until about 42 days before they die, unless they're the winter bees, which is totally different. But you have to make sure if you're doing a swarm, like these gentlemen have told you, you have to have nurse bees in there. And nurse bees are anywhere from brand new to 12 days old because they're producing the hypopharyngeal gland royal jelly. And then they can't make comb if they can't produce wax. And it takes 8 pounds of honey to make 1 pound of wax. So be careful with being rough with your comb because it is the most taxing thing that the bees do and the hardest work they do.
It's true. And there's some facts, I can't tell you what all that. How many bees does it take to make a teaspoon of honey? It's just that they're
one bee in their entire life makes a 1/12 of a teaspoon. It takes 12 bees to make a teaspoon of honey. There's 3,500 bees on average in a pound of bees. When you get a 5-frame newt or a package, you're generally going to get 3 pounds of bees. And so a colony that's 2 or 3 years old is going to have 50 to 80,000 bees in it. But always remember, your winter bees are completely different than your spring and summer bees, and your winter bees are going to be a much smaller number of bees because they're not doing the same thing. It's a different season, and they'll become your first foragers and your first nurse bees when the queen starts laying about right now. But then they'll go out and be foragers. They live about 5 months, but the regular spring and summer bees don't live 42 days. But then they'll start dying off, and then they'll start producing spring and summer bees and move on with their lives.
a lot of information. I say it's not difficult, it's just a lot, right? One day.
Just out of curiosity, how many people in here would anxiously go catch a swarm?
Yes, please. You need a hand. I'm going for the next one. Like,
I didn't start with Mecca's bees. I started with a hay cutter, cutting hay, and stumbled upon my first hive was a swarm that was about this high off the ground. I've never touched a bee in my life, but my wife called me a beeless keeper. I didn't have bees, but I sure thought it. And I had all the I played with all these bees, just I didn't have any bees. So I caught my first swarm and had no idea what I did. And I probably caught 30 or 40 in the 8 years that I've done this. But I've got now where the first, if I'm not pressed for time, I have a sheet that I carry around. It's in the truck right now. I lay it out underneath the hive. And I carry a bucket on a 20-foot paint roll, duct tape to it. I show you, I'm cheap, bad cheap. And when they're on a limb, I can put that, I can go up to about 30 foot because I have put a ladder in the back of the truck.
That's OSHA approved.
If I can possibly get them. But I lay my box in the center of that sheet. And now I've gotten where I missed the box on purpose out in front because those bees are going to roll when they come out of the bucket. And instantly start a march because they're homeless. They're looking for a place to go. We're just providing for them. And now I've got where instantly I hop down and usually I have a kilt, and I also have a queen, I don't know what.
Cage?
yeah, the round ones. Yeah.
I keep one of each because sometimes you will find a swarm that has 2 and 3 queens in it. Now why? I don't understand that part of it. But I know I've caught several, and that's just 3 queens. I mean, to me, when you find a swarm, and a lot of times it's in a bigger swarm.
So that's 2
But
halves.
when you roll them out there and you find the first queen, don't give up. Stay right there and stay mindful that they could be a second, a third. I saw, is it Happy?
Yappy bee man.
7 virgin
Happy caught
queens.
7.
Yep.
So that's free resources. You can go do 7 splits just off of 1 swarm catcher and have them ready to go. The more swarms you catch, the more you watch for. Now I go, and the first thing I do, I climb up on the ladder, like the other day, and I look, and there wasn't any drones. So that told me there was a main queen in there, because they didn't use the drones. So I found out through the years that they take the resources they need. If there's a virgin queen and they need drones, then they invite drones to go with them. If they don't need drones because you have an already made queen, you're not going to see drones in that swarm, right? You may see one or two, but one that's got a virgin queen in there, you may see 50 to 100 drones in there. So there's little things you can start doing and start watching. I guarantee you the first one you catch, you're going to dump it straight in the box because you're going to be scared to do all the other stuff. But now I dump them out in front. I look like an idiot out there, but that's fine. They're my bees. So, I'm gonna watch because I mean you're picking one bee out of 10,000 or 12,000, so it's not easy, and there's a lot of chaos with them getting in the box. But she'll flash eventually, and when she flashes, you just keep your eye on her and do everything. If you ain't ever read papers, you ain't gonna break them.
So everybody's
Charles got the big fingers. You got the big
You can sit right there.
Chuck, you got anything you want to say? Chief, you got anything to add?
No, I'm good on everything. I learned something new about the multiple queens on swarm. Look, I want to get that queen. I'm good, but so I learned something new.
A lot of times your virgins will go with the main swarm and cause cast-offs. So you may get, last year when I was in Ohio, we had, Greg had caught this huge swarm the night before. And we went out there to check on it, and as soon as we opened that jester box, the whole swarm just flew out and re-swarmed and threw off 2 cast swarms. So if you've got a bunch of virgins in there, and one swarm that we caught, one of the cast-offs had a newly mated virgin that still had the drone parts with it.
Yeah. Still attached.
That's a new lady.
Yeah.
Like
Newly
newly, just mated.
Well, is that it? Anything else to add, Richard? That you can think of? Anybody got any questions, especially you new people? Whoever purchased Nucleus College, they'll be here the 19th and 20th there, somewhere right around there. And our next big meeting will be next month, April the 9th, I think will be.
I think it is.
Okay, so I'll see all you here. Come back next time and we'll do it again. What do y'all want to eat next time? Steak?
Food.
Sure.
Chicken?
Food.
No steak.
Go be happy.
Nobody's got anything? John Mack?
No.
No, you good?
No, we got
You
your
asked me a
commercial. We got
question.
your new commercial running on WTBF, and telling everybody that they can buy loops and queens from Farmer's Daughter. So hopefully it'll drum you up a lot of business.
Woohoo.
It's picking up. It is picking up.
I'm waiting for that big warehouse stuff full of bee stuff, so I ain't gotta drive.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
I'm waiting.
He's got more than his advertising, but he'll get you slow to death out there where he's got it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, you can. We got a little bit of stuff, and I'm gonna have a lot more. I'm going over the next week or so. Getting ready for April 20th. Is that when your honeybee festival is, Brooke?
Mm-hmm.
You want to talk about that a little bit? You gonna have vendors? Or what are you
Yeah.
gonna have? Tell them.
Yeah,
April 20th.
I know you're so excited. You hate me right now.
April 20th, Saturday, April 20th, we're going to have some special vendors out in the parking lot area. Different things like crafts and I think some baked goods and things like that. We'll see. I'm not sure about that. But yeah, y'all come out and have a fun day full of food
And we're
and
gonna
fun.
have bee equipment for sale, and jackets and all that stuff.
And of course, Farmer's Daughter, products for sale, obviously. Shameless plug. You good?
I'm good.
Okay.
If all minds are clear.
But you can tell it's swarm season because Lynn will call me and say, hey, mention if anybody sees a swarm, go come and get them. And so we, mentioned that this morning and we already got a phone call, this morning.
Shoot,
But,
going fast.
but Trey beat you to them.
Trey
Beat you to them.
Hey, y'all share some of the wells.
I know, right? Where's
So
my
we
phone
make the
call?
announcement again
Of
tomorrow.
course, I'm kind
Probably
of
not
wrapped up
going.
this week.
Like the other day, I would have my hand.
Yeah,
in
no
the
kidding.
Working every day this
The guy
week.
called, he said, I got bees out at the KOA. I said, Dennis was there. And I said,
Oh,
Dennis.
dang.
And he said, yeah, I got it. I think Jay got a couple of, y'all got the one, the swarm you got from under the limb, that open air hive?
That was an open hive.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That's cool.
I cut it out, and matter of fact, that is one I'm wanting you to graft off of because Zach can attest to this. That you don't have to smoke them.
Yeah.
You can take the lid off of them, and they do not even come out of the box.
Just as gentle as they can be.
They are the calmest bees that I have ever dealt with. The only problem I had with that when I was trying to get them off the limb, I was using the bee bag. I did suck the queen in there.
Whew.
Apparently it didn't hurt. She's
Tough
still
gal.
So we got a
It's all-
concussion or
Yeah,
something.
she's still walking around, but I did suck her up with the vacuum cleaner. So.
Oh, what's a traumatic bee brain injury? It's fine.
On the ground on a ladder with a box and a shop vac. You get what you get.
And that
Yeah.
was a big swarm, too.
And it was big. It was a full colony. It took. I framed up, I think, 6 full frames of their comb off the tree and rubber banded it together. And I was telling Zach yesterday, you can't turn that over and look at it. Okay? It'll swing a little bit.
Mhm.
It's
It's soft
full
still,
glue.
yeah.
And it's heavy. It's just not glued all the way to the bottom. So, but that was late last year when I got them, and they made it through the winter.
Mm-hmm. Good. Zach? You don't got nothing to say?
Oh, no.
Okay. It's all right then. All right. Well, I don't know how to close the meeting other than say the meeting's over.
Bye,
Y'all
guys.
come back next time.
Who says you know that?
I don't know how to do this. Been strange.